Right here, we have a fat that's going to help you out in terms of upregulating the fat burning process in some indirect ways. Then you have one that's going to stop the potential production of new fat being created at the liver level via de novo lipogenesis, all without having phytates. You see what's in common between these two nuts? All right, we've got macadamia nuts, we've got Pili nuts, but what's the common denominator here? No phytates, or very low phytic acid. Let me explain what that means. Okay, I want to explain why macadamia nuts and Pili nuts are the perfect little combination of nuts. Okay, sure, I've done videos that break down which nuts are best on keto and yada yada, but people like to make their own mixes, and I'm a fan of mixing macadamia and Pili, and I'm going to explain why. But the first thing that you notice on this is there's no skin. There's no phytic acid. Now, phytic acid is something that stops or slows digestion. It's what is called an anti-nutrient. So usually you want to be finding nuts that are sprouted or don't have the skin on them because those phytates reduce the absorption of the minerals and the vitamins that are already in the nut. They can also slow down the absorption of minerals that you get from other foods. So we want to kind of limit those. So we don't want to go with a ton of almonds. We don't want to go with a ton of cashews because those tend to be high in phytates. Anyhow, that's not the emphasis of this video. I want to talk about the fat profile and why these two fats that are in these two nuts benefit each other so well. They work so synergistically. I do want to make sure you hit that red subscribe button and then hit that bell icon to turn on notifications. And remember, this video is for informational purposes only. I'm not a doctor. I'm just some guy on the internet that lost 100 pounds. Okay, I want to start for a second with the macadamia nuts. Okay, the reason the macadamia nuts from a fatty acid profile are here is because they are the richest natural source of mono-unsaturated fats on the planet. Okay, so we've known that mono-unsaturated fats are good because we've talked about olive oil and all that stuff for decades, right? But when you look at it from a macadamia nut perspective, you have a much higher level of them and a very low, 2% low, omega-6 content. So what that means is when you're consuming a lot of fat on a ketogenic diet, or you're consuming a lot of nuts, it's very easy to go into overdose mode of omega-6s. But with macadamia nuts, you have such a low omega-6 content, it's very hard to do that. And the same thing with Pili nuts, exceptionally low omega-6 content. Pili nuts balance out the fat profile by being higher in a saturated fat called palmitic acid. Okay, so this is the highest fat nut. Pili nuts are the highest fat nut that you're going to find, 22 to 23 grams in a simple serving. Okay, so a good portion of that fat is coming from a saturated fat that actually counterbalances this macadamia nut fat very well. So let's talk for just a second on the benefits of the monounsaturated fat, because there was a cool study that was published in the journal Diabetes Care. So one group consumed 65% carbohydrate, which is pretty high, okay, and then they consumed 6% saturated fat, okay, 8% monounsaturated fat, and 6% polyunsaturated fat, so relatively low fat, right? And then the next group consumed 47% carbohydrates, so still pretty high carbohydrates. Then they consumed 9 grams of saturated fat, as well as 23% monounsaturated fat, okay, most of which coming from olive oil in this case. And then they consumed 6% polyunsaturated fat. Long story short, same amount of calories, same stuff, just one had higher monounsaturated fat. The monounsaturated fat group, which again is the fat that's going to be in the macadamia nuts, ended up having a significantly less amount of trunk fat. So they didn't lose any weight, neither group, but they reallocated where the fat was. Okay, so the monounsaturated fat group had less fat around the belly. So anyway, point is, there's some really solid benefits there. Then when we jump over to the Pili nuts, which by the way, use Pili hunters because they are the OG when it comes down to Pili nuts. There's some knockoff brands, but these are the OGs. When you look at Pili nuts, they are high in a specific saturated fat called palmitic acid. Now get ready for a knowledge bomb because this stuff's really cool. Palmitic acid is a unique saturated fat that has the ability to activate something called PPAR alpha. If you watch my videos, then you know that that's something I talk about all the time, because PPAR alpha has the ability to upregulate additional fat burning processes in the body. So normally PPAR alpha is activated when we get into a fasted state or when we are very low calorie. And it's a signaling device to tell the body to start upregulating additional processes that have to do with autophagy and have to do with lipid mobilization, burning more fat. Well, palmitic acid is an activator of that. So we have Pili nuts that are rich in palmitic acid, okay, that have that beneficial effect. And we combine that with the oleic acid and combine that with the palmitoleic acid, which we'll talk about in a second. Just a tremendous fat blend. So another reason we want to have the macadamia nuts, and I know I'm just throwing superfood bombs at you, but is something called omega-7. Omega-7 has some really cool research. There was a study published in the journal Cell in 2008 that showed that omega-7, which is 20% of the fat in macadamia nuts, has the ability to act as its own hormone signaling device. Literally, it acts as its own hormone in the body. And what it does is it can signal to the liver to slow down de novo lipogenesis. De novo lipogenesis is the creation of new fat, okay? So when you're creating fat from carbohydrates or anything like that, it's de novo lipogenesis. Palmitoleic acid, omega-7 in this, can slow or stop that. Okay, so you see right here we have a fat that's going to help you out in terms of upregulating the fat burning process in some indirect ways. Then you have one that's going to stop the potential production of new fat being created at the liver level via de novo lipogenesis, all without having phytates. So you can see why mixing these together might just be the way to go. And fun fact, Pili Hunters has a Pili nut that is fried in avocado oil. So you're taking nothing with breading or anything like that. You're taking a Pili nut, which is already a good quality fat, and frying it in avocado oil, which is also a mono-unsaturated fat, just like you would find in macadamia nuts. So therefore you have a double whammy effect with the Pili nuts coming there. So you do want to check them out. There's a link down below in the description. But mixing these two up is a go-to just to have a perfect fatty acid profile. And the best thing about these fats is you can eat a bunch of them and it's not going to skew that omega-3, omega-6 ratio. If you did that with almonds, your omega-6 ratio would go up through the roof. So anyway, if you're looking to increase your fats on keto, this is going to be the way to do it in a nut fashion that's not going to hold you back. As always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.